to another episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors, a podcast where we take a hard look at domestic violence, abuse, and issues that many survivors have, and how we can, eradicate the effects of domestic violence and create healthy relationships. Uh, I'm Tara Woodlee. I'm the president of Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. And we would love for you to please, hit the subscribe button if you like our podcast. Give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment. We would love to hear your opinion. And we thank you for watching our podcast today. Welcome to this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors, where we talk about issues related to thriving and surviving after domestic violence and the challenges there are for victims as well. And those who have survived, and even though they're thriving, it can be very challenging at times to find your groove in this world. So this is what this podcast is dedicated to. I'm Tara Woodlee, president of Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. And today I have with me Midori Davidson, who is our chairwoman of the board for Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. And I asked Midori to come on today so we could talk about a topic that is hot for everybody, but especially specifically to organizations like ours, where of course, the name Break the Silence, right? We are trying to get people to come out of their shell, open up about their experiences, because the more we talk about it, the more society becomes aware of the complexities of this problem. But here lately, it seems like social media and different avenues here, across all kinds of different platforms, seem to want to censor. And I know here personally at Break the Silence, we've experienced some of that censorship. So that's our topic for today. Midori, I know you have seen a bunch of what we kind of have going on over there in different social media platforms. You can't even type out the word violence, or we're having to skirt around different words in order to get awareness out. And it's been very frustrating. So I wanted to get your take on that.
I've seen it in Facebook where even people who put up a picture and if it's deemed violent by Facebook, they're arrested and they're in Facebook jail for 30 days. It's, and then if you go to Instagram, certain things, certain words are blocked or blurred. It's And now this whole business with TikTok is really frustrating because small businesses use TikTok for advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So to tear down a platform that is completely free to the public, and especially for the small business owner and the nonprofit business who are trying to advertise goods and services, now you want to dismantle, you want to totally take down the one platform that reaches everyone without any boundaries. With Facebook, there's always a boundary. You have to meet community guidelines. You have to make sure you're not offending anyone. They actually have a slew of questions or guidelines that are standard community Facebook guidelines that you have to meet before being able to even advertise your business. Because if they find it offensive, they will take it down. If they find it vulgar, you will be quote unquote arrested and going to Facebook jail for 30 days or longer. I've had friends go to jail in Facebook longer than 30 days that we've actually had coming out parties for them just to make mockery of the subject because it's that bad. And while I understand that this is an election year and it plays a gargantuan part of the policing, funding, policy, police, synonymous. Because
Yes.
policies do police us. You know,
Uh-huh.
they if they're structured correctly, they're supposed to provide a founding structure for us to be able to advertise and do business with one another, not only on a safe ground, but on a safe playing field, on an even playing field. They provide that structure for us to evenly stand on and do the right thing. But when you overdo it, if you become oversensitized to certain words, now you're being policed. So
Uh-huh.
policy, police.
Pretty much. And even
Yeah.
TikTok has a policy. I mean, we just had to create a new TikTok account. And it wasn't because we violated any kind of policy or guidelines, but because somebody reported us as offensive. And it, okay, great. Domestic violence is offensive. I am
Exactly.
offended. I'm
Yeah,
offended. I'm offended by what I had to
absolutely.
endure. But I'm even more offended that my story has to be silenced. I can't say my daughter was, everybody knows what happened with my daughter, even in YouTube land where this is going to be put. I, I have to say unalive. He didn't unalive her. He
That
straight
doesn't
up the
even
N
make any
word.
sense.
And
That
that
doesn't even make any
offends me.
sense.
It
Yeah.
offends me that we in this community are having to experience the silence in public forums that uh, we should be able to, at one time, we were able to express ourselves freely.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very triggering for me as well because when you talk about domestic violence, and especially in communities of color, domestic violence and violence go hand in hand. They're intertwined. So you can't talk about one without talking about the other. You can't isolate the two. It's not only impossible, you just can't, because the two go hand in hand. In our community, domestic violence often follows violence because depression by definition is anger turned inward. So if you're already in a volatile living situation, who are you going to take it out on first? The people who are the closest to you, and that's the people in your home, your wife, your kids, heck, sometimes your parents, you know?
Mhm.
And if you can't bring that subject matter to life, to educate people on it, just on a standard of just a basic generalization of education so that people around you will know what to look for and how to be more aware and sensitive towards it. And all of a sudden you're blocked because you can't say certain words. Well, then let's just go back to Jim Crow then. Let's go back to segregation and prejudice then. Let's go back to women not having the vote. Let's just go back, because that's how I feel we're going. We're going backwards to
Mhm.
where the only people who had the authority and audacity, in my opinion, to walk around with any civil liberties were men, white men at that. So let's just go back. I mean, that's just how I'm feeling we're going. And it's scary. It's very
Mhm.
scary in the 21st century. We have all this technology, we have all this capability of being able to reach more people, but we're being sensitized and censored yet again.
Well, and bringing up technology, that's the saddest part of this. It's
Mhm.
technology that's censoring us. It's not
Mhm.
even a person. They are plugging in words, and the technology picks up on that word. And then they censor us with that technology. And then you can't even get a person to get a hold of them to go, hey, look, we're not promoting violence. It's the name of our organization. We are for raising awareness against domestic violence. It, and it's just beyond what that the whole structures, what they're able to comprehend, because even things like we use different platforms like chat gpt. If you put in certain words on there, it comes up automatically like, we can't support this because this can be abusive. And you're like, but I'm trying to raise awareness about this abuse. It's not that we're
Right.
trying to be abusive, and
Absolutely. And there's where I feel it's a person because policy comes from government. It comes from a corporate or a corporation of a structure. So
mhm,
it's a group of people who are deciding what's violent and what's not. And then what really gets my goat is when I'm on Facebook and I see vulgar pictures and you report them. Oh, I don't see where it's offensive. Really?
yes.
Really? You
Yes.
have a man who looks like Austin Powers mini me pinching a woman's boob in a picture that he advertised, but you don't see anything offensive. But yet we talk about domestic violence and all of a sudden we're silenced. Yeah, it's people behind this.
Mhm. Yes, and they're using technology as just a big broad sweep.
Exactly. They're using it as a smokescreen to hide behind their own, if I will go be bold enough to say, their own ignorance of what is offensive and what's not. Because it's not like you're doing a survey and you're asking people, did this offend you? Because if someone is reporting certain things like vulgarity in a conversation, or I'm being stalked by this person on Facebook, I don't even know who the heck they are. I want to report them. And then you come back and tell me, oh, their profile is legit. And that's not what I'm reporting.
Right.
I'm reporting the conversation and the words that were used in that conversation. Like Chris Tucker said, do you understand the words that are
Right.
coming out of my mouth and what I'm reporting? But yet you tell me it's legit, but as an organization, we're silenced for educating. Yeah, there's a huge problem. Huge problem, huge
Mhm.
discrepancy. And I know that it's people hiding behind technology, using this as a strategic agenda for political purposes. I'm just going to say it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think not just political purposes, but just to keep us all compliant.
Oh, yeah,
Uh, because you know, the more that they can keep us compliant, the more we're not able to tell our stories, the more things never change.
exactly. Compliant equates to silence because and when you use compliance in corporate America, we're all on the same playing field. So you can't jump the hoop to escalate a problem without following certain protocol or chain of command. That way, your silence is only at that level. It doesn't reach the top where it's making a lot of noise. As long as the rumblings are on the playing field or on the surface or on the turf, you're good.
Mhm.
But
Well,
when it
and what I
escalates, then that's where it becomes a problem.
right. Well, and what I want to know too is, we know that the powers that be are part of the issue here, but what I constantly see for us as an organization as well is that just trying to promote domestic violence awareness, we are getting flagged by different social medias that this is political, and I'm like, but we're not the ones being political. It's the, like
Exactly.
you're saying, the powers that be, the politicians that have deemed it's being political. We aren't choosing one side or the other because we know domestic violence comes on both sides.
Yes, it does.
And yet, just to like advertise a run to raise awareness and funding for scholarships gets knocked down off of platforms because it's political. And it floors me that that's what it's come to. So for me, this is, I understand why certain things in our history, women's right to vote, like you were talking about, where certain groups had to become political because they didn't have a choice. It should have been just a basic right. But
Absolutely.
then they point the finger and go, no, this is political. And I know some women back in the day went, I'll show you political,
Right,
you know?
right, right. And, history always repeats itself. So, when women were fighting for the right to vote back in 1920, again, it's just astounding that it took till 1920 for women to get the right to vote. And it took African Americans until 1965 to get a voting rights bill, a bill that could easily still be rescinded. And they're trying to rescind it as we speak. So when you look at things like that and you talk about cultural change and cultural strategy and cultural awareness and how these groups were, again, they were forced to try to be silent. Matter of fact, there was a lot of strategic power play for women to get the right to vote. They basically had to say, yeah, we support your structure, even though we may not agree with it. If we support it, can we get our right to vote? It's a shame that you even had to bargain on that level to get a right to vote, to have a say in the country that you live in. So if you had to negotiate just so that your voice could be heard, fast forward to the 21st century, I feel this is happening again. I'm seeing it happen through social media and through even certain um, groups. You have to restructure your presentation, again, barter, just to be able to get your point across or to be able to represent the group you're wanting or the audience you're wanting to represent effectively. And it sucks. It just absolutely sucks because we're going backwards in history. If you really look at history in terms of how we had to fight to get here, and you have the same structure, the same power structure that's looking at all of this and saying, well, we can wipe out certain things whenever we want to. It's like, what? What? This is our First Amendment right. Why are you now trying to censor and structure and corporatize our First Amendment right? Why
Mhm.
should that have a price tag? Why should that have a bartering sign on it? That gets me the most. But then, as
Mhm.
an individual, as a woman, when I'm reporting that I'm being offended, that I'm being followed, or I don't like the vulgar language I'm seeing being advertised, oh, but it's legit.
Yeah.
Legit where? So, again, we're still being silenced.
Yes.
It
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 astounds
floors
me.
me. It floors me. It floors me to no end. It floors me. And without understanding domestic violence at its core and why women and families are fighting so hard to get their point across, to get resolution, to get something done, and you don't legitimize my pain? You're telling me my pain is not legit? That's the
More than
same
that,
as
you're
me.
telling me my black eye is not legit, and that
Yeah,
my broken bones and the trip to the hospital and the fact that this man's been charged or
yeah.
this person was, sentenced, and no, you're not allowed to talk about that.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. My name is Tara Woodlee, and I am the president of Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. It's an organization that gives survivors and their families that have lost a loved one to domestic violence access to a community that really understands the journey that they face. We hope this episode impacts you. And whether you're a survivor or you're a family member, you may want to learn more about the topic. Hopefully, it's helping you in some way. Also, make sure you click the subscribe button below and the bell right next to it so that you can get notified when the next episode premieres. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Because at the same time, while you're talking about the physicality of my pain, let's talk about the pain of having a family divided. Let's talk about the pain of not having a healthy space to grieve because we never got the closure on my mother's case. My mother is a cold case, 38 years missing, 38 years of disappearance. And the deeper in the South you go, there is huge, huge sex trafficking and sex pornography and kidnapping cases. They do it to transgender populations there. That happened to a cousin of mine, transgender. He was kidnapped. We couldn't find him for about 4 months. Police didn't care. Black gender fluid man didn't know, nobody cared. But you can't talk about that. You can't talk about the deformity and the abnormality of what this caused in terms of my pain because it's not legit, just as my physicality is not legit. I believe it was Audre Lorde who wrote a poem, and she, at the end of the poem, she said, "Brother, I just want you to see my gist. I can't continue to wear this black eye that was created by your fist." And she was, oh my God, dragged through the mud for telling it like it is. Oh, and I'm sorry, it wasn't Audre Lorde, it was Pat Parker. Unbelievable. But it was a real, real statement because she was dragged through the mud in my community for speaking an unpopular, but yet very popular way of how we deal with violence. We sweep it under the rug. We don't talk about it. So how dare you air our laundry? Might as well just hang my bloomers on the telephone pole. And social media is bringing all that back with the censoring and this. Well, we have to restructure the way we present domestic violence. Domestic violence isn't pretty. So how are we supposed to restructure that? We can't lie because we've already lied about it.
No, we end up sounding like idiots right now.
We do.
Well, please watch out for these DV signs and SA signs and the pew pew. Don't and yeah, he had a pew pew and he had a they unalived her and
unalived her. So yeah, that's not even a word in the English language, but yet that's what you want us to use to dumb our situation and our mission down. So to me, that is no different than the woman who just got banged up the night before and she has to get up in the morning bruised and all and to find her concealer to cover up her bruises so she can go to work.
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
And let me take about 5 to 6 Tylenol for the pain so that I could drive to work. Yeah, because that was my situation. Oh, and may I dare say that my ex-fiance was a minister. So he took Bible thumping to a whole new level. Can we say that?
Well, and I am a Christian woman, but I have been a part of churches that silence you in that way too, and use
absolutely.
the religion to silence you. So there's been so many grounds that we have been trying to break and had come so far, and this just feels like not one step forward, 2 steps back. This is okay. You took 1 step forward. Now we're going to shove you way back.
Yeah, we're just going to kick you back.
Yeah. Right.
We're going to kick you all the way to the back. You know, it's
Right.
like a song my mother used to hear. She used to tell me this when she was a little girl growing up in Mississippi, and this is how blacks described colorism. If you're if you're light, you're all right. If you're brown, stick around. But if you're black, get back, get back, get way back. And this is how it's starting to look, just like that description, just like that analogy, because that was our own way of using colorism as another form of prejudice to pit lighter skinned people versus darker skinned people. So now you want to take a situation that is very dark, that can be very grimy, that it can be very not even so much uncolorful, but it is where the only color you do see is purple, black, and blue. Understand? That's why we wear purple, to be in solidarity with our sisters who are still in the struggle, who are still having to wake up with their bruises and figure out how to do life. So we stand in solidarity with our sisters still in the struggle. And our purpose is to try to help you get out of the dark. We want to help you pay that light bill.
Yes.
We want to help you pay that light bill. You know, we don't want you to continue to crawl around in the dark. But when you censor our mission and our platform to make it look like a little girl's coloring book, that pisses me off. It really does.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. Because
And
I
it doesn't
just,
even seem like there's a workaround except to use these unabashed, uneducated, and absolutely useless vocabulary to get our point across. I mean, that just really, really gets on my nerves.
right. But yeah, this is but yeah, you can see people all over like TikTok and Facebook and stuff. They can use the F word, they drop it
Yeah,
all the time,
all
but you
the
won't
time.
let us say, domestic violence. You have to, you can't, uh,
You
that
can't
to
even
me
say
is just,
abuse. You can't even say domestic abuse. You can't even say physical abuse.
mm-mm,
And God forbid if you say physical abuse and show a picture of a bruise, a woman's eye bruised. Oh, you are on the holy grail of crap list for sure.
mm-hmm,
But a man could take a picture with some woman and he's pinching her. You can advertise that. You don't see the sexism in that. You don't see the vulgarity in that. You don't see the offense in that.
yep,
That's scary
mm-hmm,
because you're using now this platform is used, in my opinion, for technological prostitution.
pretty much.
Yeah. We won't educate, but we'll every now and then take a turn in pimping. That's basically what you're doing.
Uh,
Pimping for popularity, pimping for dollars.
well, that's really what social media has turned into, hasn't it?
Yeah, it
And
has.
for any of us who are trying to create a new social aspect awareness, consciousness,
Yep,
um, that has just been, yeah,
wiped
we've
out.
been totally cut off. Our voices have totally been cut
Wiped
off.
out. Because if you even look on your profile, it says digital creator.
Right,
So that also means that if you use your platform for business, if you're advertising, they're also getting percentages of the proceeds.
right.
So yeah, it's all pimping for dollars now.
Mhm.
Another
And
form of prostitution.
right. And it's been really stressful, I know, for us, for awareness, for donations,
Oh my God,
because
yeah.
our message, I mean, we're not ones who get grants. We get funds
No.
from everyday people out there, from people who've been through it, who wants to do the, you know, ba- trickle down, pay back, pay it forward. That's the words I'm looking for. They want
Uh-huh.
you want to pay it forward to the next, woman or someone to help them.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. We wanted to pause for a moment and let you know that Through the Eyes of Survivors shop is now open. This is a great way for you to not only help survivors of domestic violence, but let everyone else know that you will not be silent on this very important issue. From t shirts to bags to coffee mugs, we have so much to choose from. To grab swag, head to store.breakthesilencedv.org. That's store.breakthesilencedv.org. I can't say enough how much we appreciate you and that the organization is blessed by your generosity. We hope you enjoy the rest of this episode and you continue to subscribe to our podcast. Thank you.
And then you have ordinary people who just care.
Right.
They want to see a better community, a better world, and it just reminds me of my grandfather. God rest his soul. I lost him. And again, that's why in the Black community, you cannot talk about domestic violence without violence. They're so intertwined. But my grandfather was a bricklayer and he was very proud of his craft, more so because of the ancestral lineage behind it. And one of the things he shared with me is that when slaves would bricklay to build their masters' homes, it was the woman who formed the brick. It was the woman who stirred the cement, took the tools to form and shape that brick for the men to lay. And before the cement got dry, they would put their fingerprints on the brick and face it outward so that people within the slave community knew who did it because they couldn't read or write. So you couldn't scribble an initial. They didn't even know how to do that, which blows my mind to this day. To have a lineage of strong people that you stand on, that you're standing on their shoulders of their sacrifices and blood, sweat, and tears, and they didn't know how to read or write. So their fingerprints was their signature. So when I look at the work we do, this is our fingerprint, and you're messing with our fingerprint.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to erase it.
That's like they're forging our signature.
Yeah, forgery.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's forgery. And forgery is fraud.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
It's fraud. So if you wanna call out everything, yeah, we need to call it for what it is. It's fraudulent. And you want us to appear fraudulent for the sake of your existence, just like hiding your bruises to go to work because I have to support a family and an alcoholic or a narcissistic husband and hide my pain. I have to not legitimize myself. I have to hide under makeup.
Right.
Ugh.
What's the solution? Because that's
Good
part of what
question.
my concern has been. So I mean, we are running the in realm. We are putting on the makeup and the lipstick, trying to put the lipstick on the pig,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
literally.
So my thoughts are, what are the next steps, even from our community out there who's listening, watching? I mean, put in the comments, we'll entertain. What is the next steps? Because this to me is so concerning, because this, again, political. You said political, because I
Mhm.
know this is the sad thing. We experienced a little bit of this back in 2020. It's about
Yes.
10 times worse this go around.
Yes, it
and
is.
and and what I constantly hear is, well, after the election it should get better. why should we even have to endure it through this period just because it's an election cycle? So what's the solutions for us? It's kind of like where, you know, my head is like, as a community, as a whole, and for our listeners even that are watching, if you have good ideas, put them in the comments. But what do you think, Midori? What are some of the things that we might be able to do now about this? Because it's getting to be monotonous. So,
Yeah, as I was sitting here thinking about that question, the first thing that came to my mind is we got to take it to the streets like the Doobie Brothers. I mean, it's time to get vocal with those who represent us, and that's going above our county seats, our mayoral seats. We need to start looking at state senate and state legislature because they are a part of the group that constitutes these structures, these policies that are policing us in social media. They are a part of that. So we need some answers. We need to understand why it is that a nonprofit such as ourselves, and we're not the only nonprofit, SOAR, speaking out against, yeah, same issue.
right,
There's RAIN, and RAIN is a support group for survivors. They can't say right now.
right.
So we have to literally start looking at who is representing us, and we need to hey, like I did when Breeway, and when I say Breeway, for those of you who recall Breonna Taylor's, Breonna was my oldest niece's cousin on her biological father's side of the family. So we called her Breeway for short. That was her nickname. And when she was the first thing I did was I called the mayor, I called the governor, I blew up their phone every day that I woke up before going to work because I was so angry that I needed some kind of therapeutic release. And I just became hooked. I called every day for 2 months straight. I mean, of course, they blocked me, they put me in voicemail, but I didn't care. I just blew up their voicemail. Sometimes I would blow it up 3, 4 times a day because I wanted to know what they were going to do about her. Because after hearing my niece cry at 6 in the morning when she called me, that did it for me. Mama Bear came out. Because my sister was unconsolable because I was like a child of her own. Whenever Brianna came from Kentucky to visit the family in Michigan, she always came over to my sister's house. They always spent the night. And she was just that child who was so helpful and looked out for anyone at such a young age. She was very protective of my niece. So my sister was totally unconsolable. So while she was trying to console her children, I said, I'm going to take it there. And I think we need to get angry enough to take it there. I really do.
Yeah,
Because it's going to get worse if we don't say something.
right. No, I agree. I
Yeah, we
agree.
have to get angry enough. And, you know, we're so numb. I think technology has made us numb to the things that matter to us because we're in survival mode right now. Inflation is kicking our behind.
Right,
Yeah, our economy is topsy turvy. There's no stability at all. So we're trying to numb ourselves from a reality that is kicking our behinds, literally. So, and then if you think about that from a domestic violence standpoint, it's going to make our economy alone is going to make the numbers worse.
right, right.
And then with these blue collar jobs, they're increasing the use of AI,
Yeah,
artificial intelligence. So, what happens to that husband who goes to the factory, who works the assembly line, who is working mandatory overtime, standing on his feet for 12, 13 hours a day, and he's suddenly replaced by a robot? That family is going to catch Holy Grail.
right.
So, in order for us to educate about what this stuff looks like, yeah, we have to take it to the streets and figure out why are we being punished, because that's how I feel. I feel as though our silence is a form of punishment for caring.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to break our silence for break the
Right.
silence.
Maybe that's the next great campaign. We call it
Yeah.
Take It to the Streets.
Yeah, take it to the streets. We're breaking our silence for break the silence. And we need some t-shirts that say that.
That's right. Yeah,
How do we
I
break
think
our
so.
silence? Take it to the streets.
Hmm. I
Like
think
these
so.
kids say, they say, I'm in these streets. Yeah, I'm in these streets too. I'm right there with you.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, and anybody who's listening, feel free to comment and share because it's really getting out of hand. And if you know of any organizations of what they're doing to try to get through this bureaucracy, this bureaucratic red tape, yeah, share that too because it's out of control.
Yeah, yeah. It's time we take our power back.
Yes. And isn't that what we teach in Break the Silence?
That
I
is.
am here to reclaim my solitude, my body, my mind, my soul, and my power. And I'm getting my voice back. So we got to do the same because we're now in a similar situation where we're being abused by bureaucratic red tape. They're putting
Yes.
tape over our mouths. It's a gag situation.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
being
Absolutely.
gagged.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about the volunteer that we had who was from Australia,
Oh yeah.
who, and that culture is amazing because they don't show criminals on TV.
No, they can't until they've been convicted. You're not even
Yeah,
allowed to talk about it as an
nope,
individual unless they have been convicted over in Australia.
absolutely. So she couldn't even talk about her abuse there
Hmm.
because she hadn't gone to court. They would not give her the freedom to even educate someone on her abusive situation because it hadn't gone to trial yet. She was on a gag order. We haven't had gag orders in the United States since the 18th century.
Right.
And to hear of countries still doing this is mind blowing. And with social media and the bureaucracy and the bureaucratic red tape, I feel like we're on this technological gag order.
Yes,
And
exactly.
we've got to get the scissors and cut it
Hmm.
somehow. We really do because it's going to
Yes.
get out of control. It's going to get worse.
Yep.
And then that means every election year, so every 4 years, we're going to be silenced again.
Yeah, that part. I can't even. Yeah. And from 2020 we never came back totally fully.
No,
So
no,
the further they're shoving us back, we're not coming back to where we were before. We're not able to go more forward. We're
nope.
getting further and
We're
further
getting further and
behind.
further back. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
every liberty that we fought for historically is slowly being rescinded.
Hmm.
Yeah. Scary
Yeah.
stuff, folks. Scary stuff.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Well, Dory, I thank you for coming on here and talking about this subject with me because I know we have been like, definitely feeling the punch, no pun
Yeah.
intended, but
Absolutely. Yeah. But
so
seriously, we have. And we're not
yeah,
the only ones. Every
yeah,
nonprofit that uses social media and every small business is being hurt by this.
yeah, yeah. I think it's time to just stand up in solidarity. Solidarity. I see that a lot, especially on
Yeah.
TikTok. There's a lot of people getting together and they want to end a lot of this kind of injustice, especially with censorship. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we need to start linking up with them. And like I say, those who are listening and watching this live, if you know of any groups or if you have any suggestions about how we should strategically go about this, please share because this is serious.
yes, absolutely. So, well, I just want to thank everyone for watching this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. Definitely, if you want to get a hold of us, there will be down in the description where you can get a hold of us at Break the Silence. And of course, like and share, get the word out. Yeah, it's time to remove that gag order, like Midori
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, it's time to remove the gag order, and we need to take it to the streets on grassroots level. I'm not
Absolutely.
saying going out and burn a bra, but I mean, hey.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Because we understand how expensive they are, okay?
Oh my Lord, yeah. All right.
So
Well, thank
I
you.
appreciate all of you for watching and hanging out with us and following us and supporting us over the years. Your support means a lot. We
Yes, it
appreciate
does.
you so much. Thank
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today in this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. To continue supporting survivors and joining us in the fight against domestic violence, visit our website at www.breakthesilencetv.org. You can make a donation, look at some of our great programs, and together we can truly make a difference. If we can break our silence, so can you. So please donate and help share. Thank you.